the show. That was not the right intro. What is going on? Okay. Hold on a second. No. It is January 1st, 2026. I'm Eric Murphy. We're getting the intro right. Let's do this again. Hello. All right, now that we've got that right, yes, it is season 5. Thank you so much for joining. It is January 4th, 2026. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Joining me today is my co-host, Tori Williams Douglas. Tori, how's it going?
Hi, Happy New Year, Eric. It's so good to see you.
Oh, so
Hope
good
you're
to see you
recovering
too.
from your not being well.
Oh my goodness, it has been one heck of a time. We didn't do an episode last week because I had my face resurfaced.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, I have a
Coming into 2026 fresh and clean.
I know. I have a little sister who has like a beauty clinic where she does the primping and the fillers
Hell
and this
yeah.
and that. And she looked at me in Christmas and goes, "Oh, I have a laser. I'm just gonna laser you." And so right before the show, I'm looking in the mirror and I am just red as a tomato. And I'm like, I can't do a show looking like this. I just look like I have like, third degree burns, I'm like, no. So it has been 2 weeks since people have seen me, and it has been a lot longer since people have seen you. How have you
I
been?
know.
How was your holidays?
Honestly, my holidays were great. My favorite thing to do on Christmas Day is just veg and watch a movie on the couch with the fireplace on. So yeah, I love it when I don't have to travel and I don't have any obligations and I can just like hang with my family and rest. I think I'm like, the older I get, the more I'm like, holidays are about rest. They're not about doing more shit.
Agreed.
So, lovely for me personally.
I will get that next year. This year was definitely not restful.
Busy.
Yep. But I think that, when we were talking about what kind of episode to do today, I think that looking back at 2025, a lot of the things that have had my immune system just out of whack, that's had me freaking out, my central nervous system freaking out, has just been reaction to what's going on. And I know that I hopped in the Discord talking to our mods, and the first thing they said is, "Hey, guess what, Eric? We're doing war crimes now." Well, we've been doing war crimes, but apparently the administration, since we've last done the show, has captured the president of a country. So that's a thing.
Yes, I believe we've updated or what's it? Not updated. We've gotten upped our subscription to the war crimes, and so yeah. That's where we're paying more for war crimes now.
Yeah,
so we can do more of them.
Absolutely. And I feel like we can keep talking about this in this way, but we also need to have a bit of a longer view in preparing for 2026. It's January. Yeah. We should have a couple more tools in our tool belt for how to get through this. Yes, it's a political thing. I have Tori on. You guys, this is a good thing. We need to have this conversation. So I definitely have a couple of thoughts, and then I know you do too. But I think I would like to go first on this one.
Yes, please.
Okay. So where do I begin? I think I want to start by saying, hey, obviously the tools that we have been using have not been working. We need an honest look in the mirror and a realization that we've got to shift things a bit, because it's not fucking working, you guys. We need to update our terminology. We need to understand what the lay of the land is, and we need to understand where our problems are. And in doing that, we can hopefully avoid a lot of those pitfalls and do better. So, the first thing is I think that we need to understand what managed opposition is. It is a term that I was not super familiar with a few years ago. It's something that I heard a couple of times, but I didn't really interact with a lot. And in the last couple of months, it has become a stark realization, and it's one that I don't want to forget. So, Tori, what do you think of when you think of managed opposition? Like, how does that term ring for you?
Oh, hi. I guess I should turn my mic on. That's important. Step one. Okay, so truthfully,
Mm-hmm.
like, other than like a brief internet scan, managed opposition is not a term I'm familiar with. Like, it makes a lot of
Ooh.
sense to me from the perspective of like historical warfare, right? Or like an ongoing conflict. There's some like intuitive sense, but that's when it comes to like American politics, at least. There can be more more meanings than just that, right?
Yeah.
So
So,
also my child, my 14-year-old has been trying to school me on a lot of this language. So
oh,
I'm excited to have a
really?
conversation with him about this as well. Yes.
What are the 14-year-olds saying about managed opposition? I'm very excited about this.
He's trying to introduce me to I'm behind. He's trying to introduce me to like basic concepts in Marxism and like how the US like misunderstands a lot of the language that we use, like conservative, like liberal, like
Oh, we're talking
progressive.
about that.
And so yeah, like that's where I am,
Okay.
is like, yeah, I have the next generation teaching me new things about the way that we use language and how it is often to our detriment.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, managed opposition. Now, mind you, hey, everybody watching, I'm not a political scientist. Um, we are assholes on the internet. We're doing our best, but like anything that we say that interests you should be a starting point for you to research and do more. We are not the authority. We don't claim to be the authority. We do, though, want to have a conversation. And I think we've got a couple of important things that we can add. So, managed opposition is different from actual opposition in that it does not stop the people who you're supposed to be opposing, right? It provides the facade of it. It makes it look like it. So, let's say anyone who runs against Vladimir Putin for president, they're not actually going to win. But they serve a really very useful purpose in that they can continue this narrative that Putin is elected by his constituents every election season, right? That
Yeah.
is not actual opposition, that is managed opposition. That is a problem that we have right now. I feel like we have done a lot of things to become managed opposition, and we need to fucking stop it. I feel like this is a big dividing line between people who call themselves Democrats or liberals versus leftists,
Mhm.
where we feel that we're being effective.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you a few examples, right? Um, I was talking to V, who was reading this book that was written in the 1960s by somebody who had been a part of the French resistance during Nazi occupation of France, right? They lived through, as an adult, the Nazi regime and occupation and wrote about the experience of how people talked about and interacted with these ideas in an occupied territory, right? And it's eerily similar to the way people talk today, and in ways that we don't really realize, right? I know that I went on this big thing this last year about debate. Well, there's one other piece that came up, and that is that under Nazi occupation, if there was an issue, right, about with what they were doing, well, then that gets turned into a debate. People can argue about that in the public square, and everybody can stroke their beards and feel very important about it. And meanwhile, while everybody is continuing this masturbatory debate, the regime is just continuing to do their
Yeah.
thing, right? They don't care. If they can relegate all of their opposition to just debating about it, then they don't actually need to worry about it. They're just going to do their thing and lock things down, in this sphere, right? When you think that the only thing you can do is debate, you are being managed opposition. If you think the only thing you can do is vote, a few weeks ago, I was on with Atticus, and Atticus said, "It feels like the house is on fire." And I said, "Oh, you know what we can do about the house being on fire? We can vote this fall on putting the fire out. And, maybe we can talk to the zoning board and see what they think and get a motion going." There are things that we can do now. And if your response is, "Go and vote, you guys," get fucked. You're managed opposition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, if you feel personally attacked, we can view this from the same side. We can be on the same side of this. We need to understand what it means to be managed opposition.
Yes.
I think that I have talked a lot last year about self-policing. The Democrat Party is very, very good at self-policing. And when we self-police, we often cut out our ability to be effective. And that is something that our opposition loves.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. I was watching last night a video by Renegade Cut. Do you remember Renegade Cut? No?
No.
OG YouTuber.
Okay.
They did this series on hierarchies. And I was like, ooh, this one's an old video. I wonder if my opinions have changed. Let me look at that. And yes, it has changed. The way people have talked about things has changed in a really big way. When you talk about, the Republican Party and Democrat Party. And by the way, if you're watching internationally, this movie is coming to a theater near you. If you think that you are out of the woods, you are just getting a look at the future unless you learn some of the lessons that we didn't.
Yeah.
So pay attention, guys. Get your fucking notebooks. So where was I? Managed opposition. Right. Taking away the tools that are incredibly
Oh, the
useful.
video that you watched.
Yeah. Thank you. So what Renegade Cut was doing is he was talking about the difference between, kind of liberal policies and conservative policies. And he had said that conservative policies were reactionary because 3 years ago, it was really nice to talk about things as, oh, yes, we don't want to be reactionary. And we were phrasing this conversation around that. And, that sounded great at the time. We could all pat ourselves on the back and go, oh, we are all so evolved. We're not reactionary. Well, guess what? I think that a lot of us moralized that. And then when the time came to react or do nothing, we all went, oh, well, reacting is not something we can do. We've moralized ourselves against that. So I guess we better do the other thing, which is turn into a fucking doormat. Right? Because we've already moralized the option that was there for us. So in that way, we've become managed opposition. Joe Biden, we should probably bring that up. I know you guys, but hear me out. I don't think Joe Biden was very great for the country. And I think that this is another example of managed opposition. Joe Biden desperately wanted to be the great the person who reconnected the nation, who went into office and would say, "Hey, everyone, we are not, divided. We are just neighbors. We are not left and right. We are Americans, and we are going to value and reach across the aisle in the spirit of collaborative effort, and we are going to make this country what it needs to be with everyone together, holding hands." And well, he thought that the right thing to do is to take a look at a Trump plan that Trump had written into legislation months before leaving office, which was going to create a progressively worse tax scenario for Americans for 5 years. Right? What it was going to do is fuck the United States for whoever the next president was. All Joe Biden had to do was say, "Let's not do that." Instead, he said, "I'm going to respect the last administration." And where did that get us? You know where it got us? It got Joe Biden a nice big fucking pat on the back for being collaborative and for reaching across the fucking aisle. When it came to the commission that oversaw the January 6th committee, you saw a lot of people from the Republican Party really visibly taking the lead, and I think that the idea was that, we as Americans should see what happened on January 6th as a betrayal of the American people's trust, right? We really, really wanted to see ourselves as that way. And so in the spirit of collaboration, you guys, we were going to do that together. And what happened was that people who should have been prosecuted were protected, and people who should be seeing the inside of a jail cell never got to.
Got pardoned.
Well, they got pardoned after the fact,
Yeah.
by Trump. But the thing is that not enough was done beforehand,
Yep.
and then it was just undone, right? Here's another one. We have moralized a lot of changes. You need to respect the system. America is a very large boat, and it takes a long time to turn a large boat. And so if you're expecting to see big change happening quickly, that's a problem. We see what Trump is doing when it comes to making large changes. And we go, "Oh, that's an issue." Which means that if we moralize that, then if we ever find ourselves in charge, we will look at that and go, "Oh, we can't make big sweeping changes." Because if we do, we'll be the bad guys because we've moralized that. We are taking away our options by becoming managed opposition. Now, am I making you all guys feel bad? I'm sorry. I am honestly genuinely hopeful about it. I'm genuinely hopeful that in this conversation we can look at this together and go, "Oh shit, maybe we should take a look at what it is we're moralizing and make sure that we're not taking away the tools that would actually be useful to fixing things." These are all examples of managed opposition that in the last year have gotten so much worse, and that we are not going to be able to have access to, what we're going to need to fix things. So let's fucking stop it. If you hear these politics, I think that a lot of people who were Democrats turned into leftists, after Hillary Clinton, and after Biden. And I think that they did that because they saw that the Democrat Party was being managed opposition. They were moralizing and saying, "Oh, why would you expect the gears of change to happen quickly? We don't do that." Change does happen quickly. Take a look at history. The big changes, they didn't happen overnight, right? And they didn't happen because we gently petitioned for it to happen. Rights rights aren't handed over. Like I feel like, another big myth. By the way, I'm sorry. Now I'm just rambling, but I really gotta. Tori, do you know? Speaking of getting through Christmas, one of the big myths that gets me is The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Okay.
Because you have the Grinch, who is just taking away all the presents and the food from the Who's in Whoville. And what is it that changes the Grinch's mind? Why, it's little Cindy Lou Who, who's crying because he took her roast beast and her presents. And she's so sad. And he saw her crying, and his heart grew. What, 3 sizes, 5 sizes that
Three
day?
sizes.
3 sizes that day, Tori. His heart grew 3 sizes that day. And he changed. And I think that there's this myth that if we just cry so everyone can see, if we gently ask, please, please, can we have rights? That's going to fix things. That's not how we got them in the first place. And this isn't The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. So we need to stop with that myth. That myth does not make us effective. That myth makes us, everybody, managed opposition. Let's not do it. Tori, I went on a bit of a 15-minute rant there, but how do you feel about managed opposition? Got a bit of a better idea?
Yes, absolutely. And it does totally track back to like what my kid was telling me last night or Friday night about the way that Democrats are sort of really, they're very excited to come in second in order to maintain the system that exists as it exists right now. And I absolutely love your critique of we have to take baby steps, because it makes me think of things like the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And there was a point where enough people said, nope, this is it. This is the end of the line. We're not doing your baby steps, right? Like justice delayed is justice denied, which is a very kind, like Black Southern way of saying get fucked. And like, no, it's like we have rights. You don't get to take those away just because you happen to be in office right now. And this is, and you know, there's obviously, there was a lot that went into that. I would love to, next month is Black History Month. So I'd love to talk about like Reconstruction and like the end of Reconstruction and like the evolution there, because I think it ties directly into everything that you're saying about managed opposition.
I think Black History Month is managed opposition.
No, that's a really good point, but it didn't start out that way.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Do you know who started Black History Month? Do you know who wrote that into law?
Well, no, go ahead, tell me.
Ronald Reagan.
Sorry. Okay. That's what I mean. Black History Week did not start out, not Reagan's thing, right?
Oh, okay.
But Black History Week was intended because Black children were not being taught their history. Sound familiar? Yeah. So no, I don't mean Black History Month in like Reagan, in, you know, not Reaganomics Black History Month, but like the actual endeavor to educate Black kids about their history. And it is really interesting when you look at that timeline. Anyway, because historical revisionism, which is what was being taught to Black kids about like, you know, the people like the slave owners in the South were like these kindly, godly gentlemen who took very good care of their
slaves,
their slaves. And, you know, this is the system that God created, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And the idea was like, hey, let's learn about the people that contributed to our liberation from our own history, because Black people, like Black history was not being taught in American schools. Anyway,
well, and it's not just Black history, right? So I think people like I think that a not full understanding is causing a lot of people to potentially see what we're saying and not really get why, you know, how this could be managed opposition. So I'm gonna try and like contextualize this a bit. I want to talk about this for February. So please,
yes.
I don't want to take away from this, but I do want to just say that there was a point in time when unions were a force to be reckoned with in the United States.
Yeah.
When unions first really started, unions came about with the Industrial Revolution. You had a class who was beholden to the factory owner, right? The factory owner would have workers come in. You're replaceable. If you're not going to stand at the machine for, 16 hours or whatever, we'll find somebody else who can. And what workers found is that when they worked together in solidarity, they could petition and go, hey, we deserve a minimum wage. And if you're not willing to pay it, we're all going to walk the fuck out. And it wasn't just that business that walked out, but there are stories of textile workers in France going on strike and dock workers in Spain walking out in solidarity.
Yep.
Because when they did things for each other, that solidarity did not give a fuck about state borders. It did not give a fuck about country borders, and it didn't give a fuck about industries.
Yep.
It was people having solidarity for each other. So how did that become managed? Two ways. One way is through co-opting that governmentally. The government said we need to legislate and make sure that companies, people cannot strike on behalf of each other. That'll ruin our industries. And so we are going to legalize unions and give you rights as unions, and in return we are going to strip away those things that make unions useful, beneficial. You can no longer
Powerful.
Yeah, thank you, that is the right word.
Yes.
Powerful. We lost that power by becoming managed by the government that way. You can no longer strike on behalf of in solidarity of other people. You can no longer pick up and strike and just walk out that day. You need to give notice. You have all of these pieces that were stripped away. And we wanted so badly to be validated that we were willing to sell out the things that made us effective. And in that way, unions became managed opposition, right? The second piece of that is, hey, Ronald Reagan again, right? There was a massive strike of air traffic controllers, right, and pilots.
Yeah.
And our air traffic controllers. And they said, we are not going to be subjected to incredibly bad hours and incredibly bad pay. We are being fucking abused, you guys. We need support. We need proper pay. We need, and so they went on strike. And they went on strike for so long that it was actually causing issues economically to the country. And so Reagan went in and said, hey, I am forcing all of you to go back to work. Because being an air traffic controller... Strike's over, go back to work. If you're not back at work within 48 hours, something like that, your job is terminated and you will be banned from ever getting government work again. And they did it. There were massive layoffs. Tons of people lost their jobs and lost their careers. Businesses took a look at the government doing that and said, hey, that's a great idea. If Reagan can do it, we can too. And so instead of solidarity in your fellow coworker, you saw the floodgates open to, hey, you're out. You don't like it, you're going to strike, we're going to replace you forever. That is how a government can, first off, co-opt an effective movement and defang it. And then how private industry can look at the government taking the lead on that and do that to the rest. And I think that we can apply that to Black History Month. And we should do that next month. But I think that is the model.
Yes, 100%. I think you're right. There's this idea of, like, it's sold to us as the government legitimizing your cause. and your effort, and seeing you as engaging in this righteous warfare against oppression.
Right.
When, like you said, so that's the narrative that we're given, and in actuality, how it functions is to take away your power. And I think that that is true overwhelmingly for any rights that like we've been given historically. That anything that the government sees as a legitimate threat, right? That and there's a few different ways that people do this. There's a few different ways that like government actors, I guess, do this, right? But there's this idea that like via legislation or executive action, the government will step in and say, "Hey, I see your righteous just cause here. Let me come in and give you whatever. I'm going to give you this framework." Yes, legitimacy. And then it's actually like, here's the box, get in. I'm nailing you in. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I completely agree with your analysis. And I think that you're right. You know, there's a lens to be used on that with Black History Month, right? Is it's like, okay, we're going to take these things away from you. And like the government calls it legit now. So sorry, bye. And along these lines, I think one way that I see this playing out more on an individual level, I think that rather than a systemic level, is the Black Lives Matter movement, which became a threat to the existing order and hierarchy, right? Which was organized overwhelmingly on Twitter. And people noticed that shit. And also, if you go and you look at it, right? Like I don't want to be disrespectful, and people have different opinions, but a lot of the leaders of that movement have become sort of like they've been absorbed by like mainstream sort of outlets and given a platform and said, "Hey, please do this," and a contract that says you may not do these things, and we will give you this money.
Right.
And you should, and it's really interesting, right? Because it's like you look back at like, Black Panther Party, for example. It was like, oh, we're just going to break into your house and shoot you.
Oh my God, the Black Panther Party is such an important example. And I don't want to like, yes. And I feel like we're so excited. I don't want to mine too much in the next month, but yes, all of that.
Right.
Yes.
But now it's a little bit different, right? In that it's like, hey, we're going to write you a really big check. And you're going to be able to say whatever you want, except for like these 4 things.
And these 4 things just happen to be the things that make you useful. Make you effective. Please
sign on the line below and give me your voice. I'm Ursula. Like, yeah. So I think that you're absolutely right in that respect. And I think we have to be very, very cautious as people who want to, change where the boat is headed. I think we need to be careful about whose examples we're learning from, because I think there is something to be said for, you do have to play the long game, right? And it's not backing out when it's like, oh, we did the thing and nothing happened. I'm done. We're cooked, right? Like I showed up one time to a protest and like nothing changed. I want people to
you guys.
Really, yes, we voted. We showed up, we did the letter writing campaign. The one politician we voted in didn't change the system. Things like that, right? I think that we do need to have some like internal sort of grit, resilience when it does take a long time. And I want that to be clear from the managed opposition piece of like, sometimes these are long fights. Right? Sometimes it is a long time to get to freedom, right? Like that's just a real thing. It's something I reflect on all of the time as someone with Black ancestry, is like the fight is long, right? And the moral arc of the universe doesn't bend towards justice unless we are physically, figuratively forcing it to bend towards justice, right? Like that is not just like, it's not just the orbit of justice, like, and the moral arc of the universe, right? Like this requires work, it requires effort, like very much like a blood, sweat, and tears thing. And so I want to encourage people that like, don't become managed opposition, and also have the long view in mind of like, there's no magic wand.
I kind of want to dig into that a little bit more. I know there are other things we want to talk about, but I want to take that. I do want to say, by the way, this is a call-in show. If people want to call in, we have a call screener. We have a toll-free number that we pay for that we would be happy for you to call in. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Our call screener is there, ready to talk to you. We want to hear from you. If you disagree, I know that what we are saying is not necessarily what the party line has been. And I feel like we can be accused of further dividing. Mm-hmm. And if you think that this is further dividing, you're fucking ops. We're talking about cutting out effective tools. Mm-hmm. And if that is what is the problem, you are the problem. Fix it. Nobody's the bad guy in their own story. So find the tools that are making you the bad guy and everyone else's. Right? This moral sense of superiority is killing us. And it's been. There is a piece to be said there, and I'll just say this as an aside, and then I want to talk about what you were saying. Just really quickly. Tori, you know, the 90s lib kind of stereotype. I don't see color, you guys. I don't see color. Everyone's just people. Right? Like that really sweet mom jeans kind of lib. Everyone's equal. It's sweet and also problematic. Mm-hmm. What is the next generation? We have it already. We know it. There's a stereotype. And it is the Coney 2012. I changed my profile banner. I donated $5. I voted this time, you guys. Pat me on the back. Give me a cookie. I did the thing. I did the performance. It took minimal effort. And that's all I needed to do. Mm-hmm. That is it. We can look at 90s libs and go, oh, that's funny. And then take a look at ourselves and not see that we are actually more managed opposition than our moms. So, like, we have that stereotype and we've got to address it. But what you were talking about, I think, just, yes. And also, I feel like this is where skeptics really get into trouble here. You don't have rights because rights are a fiction. Justice is a fiction. It doesn't exist, right? You are not protecting an innate thing, an inherent thing. If it was baked in that you had rights, then you wouldn't need to fight for them, would you? These are fictions that we create, that we see value in. And by participating in this fiction, we are creating a more just world. So even though you don't have some catalyzed justice that you can hold up and say, here is the physical manifestation of it, our actions are the manifestation of that dream, of that hope, of that fiction. And we've got to stop with the, putting down these concepts, or treating them as I think that I found myself in a place of, if you cannot show it to me under a microscope, it shouldn't be trusted. And I think that was a type of skepticism that you see a lot online, and I know that I've seen a lot in myself. And while I still think that you need to have good evidence for the things that you believe in, sometimes the things that you believe in need to be evidenced. And when we're talking about things like justice, that evidence is the things that you are doing, right? We are creating a just world by by believing in justice and by demanding it, right? We are creating rights by building that with each other. And I think that is that's ops, that's managed opposition. If, you know, I kept on that viewpoint, then I would have been very easily reached. One other piece on the propaganda bit, and then I'll continue, is apparently, this is the way that I've heard it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but so Goebbels, who was the lead propagandist of the Nazi Party. Hey, you guys, you can say the word Nazi. If we're going to get, whatever plugged by YouTube, that's YouTube being a fucking shit. I'm not going to be a shit for YouTube. If they want to shut me up, then let them be the ones to shut me up. But no, fucking Nazis exist. They existed. Great. Goebbels. When it came to talking to him about who they were reaching, who do you think their primary audience was when it came to propaganda for the Nazis? Who was their primary target for propaganda?
I imagine it would have been the people that they already had power over, like the regular citizens.
I mean, but we can say the regular American citizens, but how useful is that, right? Like, there are a lot of American citizens. What I think that there's this knee-jerk reaction to say, oh yes, if you're looking at propaganda, it's to the people that they already believe in it.
Right.
And that's not true. Why would you need to propagandize to people who already believe you?
For extremist reasons is what it was where my brain went.
I
continue.
So the people who are already on your side, you have other mechanisms to, rah, we're the right people kind of stuff. But the propaganda is not based towards that. If you're looking at propaganda right now, there is propaganda that is towards people who already believe it. And then there is this more important target, and that is, and it was true for the Nazis too, the fence sitters. If you fancy yourself an intellectual and you say, I'm not any party, I'm a free thinker, you are intellectually unmoored. If you have gone this far in seeing what is going on in the world and said, I don't have a stance, and you've moralized that and said, oh, that is a valuable thing, then what you are creating value in is what? Is you're creating value in being in not caring enough to
being neutral.
Yeah.
Is like the greatest good for a lot of people.
Right. And seeking that neutrality means that you're just going to move wherever the Overton window moves you.
Yes.
And when it comes to argumentation, you're more likely to be brought in by dishonest actors.
Yeah.
The people that were targeted for propaganda, to change their minds, it was the people on the fence. It was the people who fancied themselves too smart to be tricked. And the funny thing is when you think you're too smart to be tricked, you're more likely to be tricked because you're not wary of it anymore. You're too smart for that. And I think we've seen that. So,
well, to me, that feels like the ultimate managed opposition of being committed to being in the center of the Overton window, no matter where that goes, or just not taking a side, right? On things like justice. I don't mean like a political side. I mean not taking a side on things like human rights, right? Acknowledging that that's a construct, and also like you got to pick a fucking side.
Yeah. Okay. Guy. So when I say the word intelligentsia, how would you describe that?
I mean, in the context of like the early aughts, I would describe it as like the people who are, doing the, I think we call them thought leaders now,
Yep.
which I hate. I think it's so gross. But like the people who are allowed to craft public opinion via like outside of government, I would say is how I perceive that. So
So I think that thought leaders is a good view of it. I think that in skeptic spaces, intelligentsia has been co-opted and has been absolutely turned into ops. You see. What's the YouTube channel? I did so many videos on them, and I think I'm just trying not to think about it. 12 conservatives against one, 12 neo-Nazis versus
oh
one
yeah, yeah,
regular
yeah.
person.
Jubilee.
Jubilee, thank you.
Yeah. My brain also blocks it out.
I really, truly do. I had to watch so many Jubilee videos for my job.
Ugh.
But I think that, this critical thinking kind of skeptic free thinker space, this intelligentsia has been co-opted by that kind of shit. It's the Jordan Peterson shit.
Yep.
There's this value in saying, I have not made this strong stance. Now let's compare that to the black intelligentsia.
Okay.
Do they waffle? Because I'm pretty sure that for the last 50 fucking years, they've been pretty fucking clear about the goal, right? And it hasn't been, oh, I value, seeing myself as a very, very important person, right? It's about fucking liberation.
Yeah.
So, we should probably, if we're going to be talking about intelligentsia, let's see what happens when you have people who are well principled, who actually have an idea of what's going on, and they stick to it because they're well grounded in their epistemic justification, right? Take a look at where other people get it, because they're not sitting on the fence. So why are you?
Yeah. I think obviously people do it because it's comfortable, right? And it's rewarded. Culturally, that is seen as like, again, sort of like the greatest good is, oh, I don't pick a side. I'm a free thinker. I'm a critical thinker. I'm very smart. Pat, pat, pat. And
give me a cookie.
Well, and also the, this idea of being like emotionally disconnected from atrocities, war crimes, human rights abuses, that it's like you just observe them as, this neutral third party. And that is, again, sort of seen as like the greatest good. Don't get emotionally involved. Don't have feelings on it. Just report back whatever it is that you're seeing. And that's, you've done your job, you've done your duty as a citizen, as an observer, as a white man, as a whatever the situation is, right?
Yeah. And I think that it's absolutely crazy the way that people are selective in the way that they like break that apart too, right? I was talking to, so we're going to get into this. New family member of mine. I think she's wonderful. She's such a sweet person. She also doesn't think a woman should ever be a president because women are too emotional. And I said, and do you think that men with rage issues diving into war because they had their masculinity challenged makes them less emotional? Everybody's emotional. So like, yeah, I just want to like support what you said, is that, it's so weird that we go, oh, we can't be emotional. It's like, no, everyone is emotional here. Take a look at, again, I'm going to point again at Jordan Peterson because it's so fun to pick on. But the whole reason he got popular is because he cried. He was whinging into the microphone for as long as you've known about him. Why? Because the transes were making him use words he didn't like at the college that he worked at, guys. That was his whole break in. Right? The whinging, the crying, the complaining, the hurt feelings. Everybody's got it. So let's quit pretending like we're all Spock, because no one is.
Yeah.
And again, like I don't want this to devolve into just, you know, you and me being Statler and Waldorf here, you know, up in the balcony, just pissing on everybody. You know, how can this be useful for moving into 2026? This can be useful because I want to point out where we need to find the pitfalls and where we
Yeah.
need to see ourselves and the people that we love and go, hey, you are actually making things easier for the people we don't, you know, want in charge. You're actively making things easier because you're taking away the options that are available to us. You are moralizing the wrong things, and by doing that, you are removing our effectiveness. We're here because we've continued to do that. We have been our own opposition. We have been managed opposition. It is better that someone run against Putin, not because they're ever going to win, but because it creates this illusion that there was ever a competition to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great framework, like really one that I'm excited to like sit with and fill out a little bit more
Yeah.
in the present context, right? Because for me, I'm obsessed with history, so I'm always looking at like the historical context that we can see this framework being used in, right? Of managed opposition, and you know, reflecting on some of the critiques in like Black history, like from Black thinkers, intellectuals, etc., about criticizing the same behavior,
Yeah.
right? And calling people in, I would say, largely calling people in and saying, hey, you know, we have more power than they're saying we have. And like sometimes I think, Eric, what you're saying, as I'm reflecting on it, it is really important to tell people you have power.
Yes.
Because we're told we don't, right? We're told our power is in our neutrality. We're told our power is in not taking a side, not having an emotional reaction, not caring about other people's rights because this, that, and the other thing, you know, emotional maturity. And, you know, we're trying to be objective here.
Yeah.
And it is really important. Like what you're saying has so much historical resonance of convincing people of their own fucking power.
Yes.
And not to give it away because you're scared, you're tired, you're maxed out. Like,
I know.
You don't want your privilege threatened.
So I want to push that a little bit more because those are gentle excuses that people can have for giving up their power. The not gentle excuse is, I have moralized that and I'm giving up my power and think I'm a better person than you for it. If the best version of yourself is the one who gives up their power, then it's not about you having an excuse. It's about you having a fucked up moral guidelines, your principles, your ethics, your axioms that you've built your world around are never going to get you to the world you want to get to because you've actually moralized being your own opposition.
Can I float something?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, not to be like a contrarian or whatever, but I'm thinking about
what
this
the show's
through.
about. Hit me.
I know. No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this through the lens of people who have been historically disenfranchised, right?
Yes.
People who actually are not safe. And we also need those folks to participate, right? So when I was making that critique, I was thinking about it through the lens of people who have, I was criticizing people who have privilege and are like, I'm tired. Or like, I'm like, my calling this year is to rest. And so I'm not going to get involved in politics or whatever the thing is, right? Like we have all of these, I don't know, like we have all of these narratives, right? That sort of empower doing nothing and frame like the managed opposition or completely backing out entirely and just not participating as noble and good and worthwhile and self-care, right? But you know, when I'm saying like, hey, we also need to encourage the people who feel like they don't have any power, have been told they don't have any power, and have experienced having no power, have experienced having their votes stolen, right? Have experienced gerrymandering or whatever the situation is, right? In your context, and thinking like, so much work had to go into convincing Black folks historically that, like, no, actually, you do have a right to vote and you should stand up for those rights. Because there was so much abuse, discrimination, human rights violations, terrorism against Black people, that there was this a very valid fear and hesitation about pursuing your own rights, because that's fucking scary, right? Like, that is terrifying. Like, you have a 6th grade education or less, right? Thinking about sharecroppers, again, like post-Reconstruction, people who'd be starved for registering to vote, literally. Thinking about those folks who are, modern day, it looks different. It plays out differently, obviously. Like, the people that we're most scared of these days are clearly like immigrants and trans people, right? Yep. But having these conversations of encouraging people to take back their power, encouraging people to take a side, encouraging people to take a stand, to show up, and then, for people who are disenfranchised, again, whatever that looks like, and encouraging the people with privilege, with access, with opportunity, saying, like, being harsher on them, I would say, which I know you agree with, Eric, so I'm not saying you weren't doing that. But we need to be meaner to those people, honestly, because it's like, you have a pile of privilege that you could spend on liberation. Again, Eric, like you're saying, on the liberation of, like, your siblings, your neighbors, your community, like the people on the other side of the tracks, wherever you happen to find yourself. And instead of spending that in pursuit of, bending the moral arc of the universe towards justice, you're just putting it in a barrel and lighting it on fire because I need to rest. Right.
Right.
And so, I do want to be clear that, like, there's different sort of layers here in terms of how we need to communicate these things and how to empower people based on, like, their context. I
don't even know. I think it can be more direct than people realize.
Okay.
So like, taking a look at the Black Panthers, right?
Okay.
The amount of amazing shit they did to liberate their communities, to say, hey, we're going to provide transportation to people who don't have it. We're going to provide education to people who can't get it. We're going to provide school books and clothes for people who can't get those things. We're going to provide education opportunities for people who want more of that. We are going to build communities that do that. We are going to spend our money in businesses in our communities so that we can see them thrive, so that they can turn around and pay people in our communities, right? We are going to see those things in motion. And what I was taught was that the Black Panthers were a fucking terrorist group.
Yep.
Not that they did all of these things that actually contributed towards liberation. So I think it is more direct than you think. It doesn't necessarily need to be portioned out in different ways when we can see there's a direct line, right? I think that last year I kept saying, oh, get involved in your community, you guys, get involved in your community, as though it is a cope method. But the thing is that, like, people perk up more when they hear about union solidarity. But what is union solidarity but leaning on your network once you have created it to affect change?
And being able to trust that your network will be there for you when you need to lean on them.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
Absolutely. And I fully agree. There's only one shift in language. I'm sorry. I'm picking things, but I'm only picking them because I want to, like, refine them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not taking back our power. We're stepping into it. We never gave up our power. We are actively giving up our power every day. To not do so does not mean we need to ask to take it back. We're not wrestling it away. We are recognizing that it is ours to begin with. And we are going to refuse to stop giving it.
Yeah.
We're talking
I love that.
Moving into 2026, right? If we're going to be talking about how we're going to set our compass this year, then we need to stop seeing those things that are getting in our way and start seeing how we are effective, how we are valuable, how we're useful, how we're powerful, and how we're going to stop being managed opposition. There's other. I had a whole other thing. This took an hour. I want to get into talking about language. I want to get into talking about conservatism versus progressivism. I think that as a framework, it is fucking us, but we have a caller from the Basque region of France, which costs a whole lot of money to keep on the line, who I absolutely adore every time they call. Jode, in Basque, you are live on the show. How's it going?
Hi there, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. Always happy to hear from you. Say hi to Tori.
Hi, Tori. Really nice to meet you.
Hi. So glad to have you call in. What do you want to talk about?
So, first things first. I love that Eric pointed out a thing that I've said for a very long time.
Which one?
You brought up wanting to talk about language
Yes.
and the use of language. And I've always thought that language is defined by the people who have the most power and the people that write history. So, on the Black Panthers being terrorists, quote unquote, yeah, of course, but that's because they were fighting against the status quo of the state, and the state is the one that defines them as terrorists. So obviously they are terrorists, quote unquote, because the state says so. If they ended up being, I don't know, if they end up overthrowing the government, then they wouldn't be terrorists, wouldn't they? They would be the people in power.
Yeah, they'd be
So
freedom
it's
fighters.
completely a definitional thing. So calling someone a terrorist is dependent on currently existing power structures. As you know, like as a Basque person that lived through ETA, the Basque liberation movement, who were by all metrics terrorists. They planted bombs and they killed people that disagreed with them. They also helped a lot on the Basque liberation movement, and the reason why Spain, after Franco, did not have another dictator was because ETA killed him. So technically, it all depends on how you define it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting that I feel like I've been my own opposition this last year, because all I've done is react, and in doing that, I've been ungrounded and have been absolutely letting other people make those definitions for me. And so trying to approach this year, creating definitions, understanding them, and then working towards the goals that I set for myself, I hope is a way that I can fight back against that. And instead of letting, current people set those definitions, we can create them, uphold them, and then, make them more legitimate. Right. I'm right there with you. Totally agree. You wanted to talk about Venezuela, though. So
Correct.
Let's all take a deep breath. I do want to say first off, Jode, that I am so deeply unqualified that I feel like I am going to melt in embarrassment. So I'm probably going to try and shift all of the conversation over to Tori, so I don't need to be seen as incompetent. But I'm going to do my best. Jode, set the stage. What's going on?
Yeah. I guess my point of view is less on the situation in Venezuela and where the future is going to go. Because, that's just playing knowledge and acting like because no one knows what's going to go on, and no one knows where the future of that is pointing at. It's more this feeling of like when the situation with Charlie Kirk happened. It's horrible that someone got killed, but on the other hand, he was not a person that was helping the well-being of anybody, really, aside from himself. Same happens here. Like, I don't like the idea of the U.S. having taken control of an area of a sovereign country with their own laws and their own lives, and having killed people in the process of doing that. But on the other hand, I don't think Maduro is a particularly good person. So it's I don't know. There's that feeling.
Yeah, I think that can I offer maybe a shift in perspective?
Please do. Please do.
Yeah. So when it comes to authoritarian regimes, when they want to expand their power, they want to find ways to do it in the least controversial way possible. They want to do a test case and then use that as groundwork to continue doing that elsewhere. Right. So, you can look back at the Nazi regime and who were the first people they went after? Trans people, actually. And
Trans people, disabled people,
yep. And
people that were like the dredges of society, quote unquote, that they call.
Yes. And when the dregs of society were wiped and they didn't have other people looking out for them, then now you have a framework that has been tested and has been shown to be useful and effective, and then they used that elsewhere. We need to, instead of thinking about this in the framework of, oh, I did not like the leadership of Venezuela, I'm looking at this as a test case that you have an administration who wants to do this elsewhere. They've already said that they want to do this in Greenland. They've threatened to do this in Canada.
In Cuba.
And Cuba. What this is them floating it out, and they're doing it in a way that people can sit there and hem and haw, and we can debate about whether or not the Venezuelan president was okay and whether or not there was a dictatorship there. And everyone's going to be so busy debating that the administration's going to go, hey, that test case worked. Now we're going to use it elsewhere. That's what my concern is there. It's not so much about whether or not Venezuela's president deserved it, and or as much as whether or not you are seeing the framework being built for colonial expansion in 2026.
Yeah, I guess I was not looking. Well, I mean, I am aware of having, the Western Hemisphere having stepped back into colonialism in the last 48 hours, which is like never stopped being colonial, but like jumping into it, like arms open, making a splash. That has been like just a terrifying prospect, right?
If you shift the way you view it, like colonialism, it's just the enforcement of a tool set. The tool set is, it's like the Borg: assimilate or die. Right? You're going to get with the program. You're going to accept our cultural, whatevers. Or you're out. Those tools, when you use it on your own people, that's fascism. When you use it on other people, it's colonialism. The U.S. has never stopped doing that, especially to South America.
No, I would say military colonialism maybe is the point of view. So economic colonialism, yeah, that's been very, very present historically.
Not really. Like, so the economic colonialism, I absolutely get. I didn't really learn about that until I learned more about the history of Mexico. The reason why Mexico wasn't turned into part of the United States is because there were too many brown people. They didn't want Mexicans being Americans. So instead, they just left the colonialism to private industry. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't military intervention. It just means that the military intervention found other ways of happening. In Mexico, it was the rurales under Diaz, right? All right, let me see here. When it comes to Middle East and South American and Central American governments being kept weak and overturned even when they're democratically elected. It may not have been the United States government sending its military, but it was absolutely sending the CIA, the FBI, right? Like American intelligence agencies were still involved in overturning these regimes. So like we still did it, and we've admitted to it.
True. Banana Republic stuff.
Yeah, and I think the Banana Republic stuff is just as valid, is just as destabilizing, is just as damaging to those people in that country and what the people they elected. I guess it's that difference in perspective. I'd love to hear what Tori has to say, because please,
she looks like, oh, no, I have thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up. Go for it, Tori.
Goodness. Yeah. When you were, Eric, when you were kind of listing, the CIA getting involved, and then it's like, I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, and also like School of the Americas, where we would take people from a country and train them to go and, assassinate their elected leaders or destabilize the country economically. And it's like, oh, we didn't do it. Look, it was like the natives who were responsible for this. It's like we're paying them and we're giving them guns and like we're training them, right? So yeah, it hasn't been as outwardly flat. I think our colonialism has been less outwardly flashy and blatant. There was this idea of like respectability politics that kind of, we wanted a facade of respectability and like good intentions, or the guise of having the right to engage with other countries based on made up intelligence or whatever the situation is. So I do think it's more blatant now, but the function is identical, I feel, in this situation with Venezuela. And like, for me, I know that like people come to this with different sort of perspectives. I think about the fact that like how many people in the US, for example, because I think we pay a little bit less attention than a lot of folks in other Western countries, could name the president of Venezuela 72 hours ago. So it's like, it's very, again, you're looking at like, who's the most marginalized here? Who is nobody going to come out and protest for? Like, nobody's going to take to the streets for Maduro, because like, who is even Maduro? Like, I don't know, right? Find Venezuela on a map. I'm gonna say 50% of Americans couldn't do that either. And so like, I think that the historical analog of going after the most marginalized people, doing a test case, floating it, seeing what works, what doesn't, where they get legal pushback, where they get social pushback, and then refining that process, right? They can do it sloppy in Venezuela because Venezuela, like, they're communists and this guy's a dictator and he's murdering people and whatever, like Trump isn't murdering Americans, and
like social pressure is going to be less in a proving ground like Venezuela.
Right. And like, do Americans care about, for example, do Americans care about the Venezuelan people? I'm going to say no, because they've been suffering for a lot longer than Trump has had like Maduro in his crosshairs. And is that part of a national conversation? Unless it impacts like our oil consumption, no, not really. And so like, I think that this is a really great example of like, Americans largely don't care. So it's like, hey, we can do this here. Nobody's going to give a fuck. There's no like protest movement, right? There's no like Venezuelan lives matter taking to the streets, right? There's no like land back movement for getting corporations out of Venezuela or whatever the situation is, right? And so I think that they see this as a really good place to try to do the more flagrant, flashy colonialism, because again, like, that's what they want to do, right? Like, what is the purpose of changing the name back to the War Department from the Department of Defense? It's like, no, we're actually gonna be flashy and gaudy and in your face about the things that we're doing to cause harm, destruction, destabilization in the US, in other countries. And I do think that the framing that they want to put out in the world is different now, but the function is the same. And for me, my deepest concern sincerely is like Maduro, whatever, but like the Venezuelan people, like, this is unacceptable. Right? Like, if someone did this to us, again, I'd be like, yeah, Trump was a bad guy. Venezuela comes in and takes him hostage if we're just doing a reverse situation here. Right. But like the destabilization piece and the fact that like more people are going to go hungry, more people are going to die. Right. And that's where, as far as like my emotional reaction to all of this, I'm like, that I'm never okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And it's the fact that destabilization is sort of the playbook of the U.S. and has been the playbook of the U.S. for a very, very long time.
Centuries at this point.
Like, just look at, like, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, because like 2 days ago, It's like, oh, the situation in Venezuela is like looking bad, and then you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, the United States have just captured Maduro. That is insane. So we watched the press briefing and just shocked all the way through. Just could like the only thing you can do is just like gawk at the extravagance of the situation because it was just crazy, just unbelievable. And the point was sort of like people like Maduro, they're not gonna be taken out of the power by their own people if the country is hungry. And I said, yeah, that's sort of true, but at the same time, that's also not going to change just because Maduro is now out of the current position that he's in. The state is still there. That hasn't changed. The vice president has asked, hey, like bring this guy back. So the vice president is not negotiating with Trump. The oil companies knew about this before Congress knew about this. Like, it's this gigantic parody, and like I can't but look at it and think like, oh, this is the worst timeline. And on the other hand, like think about all these people in Venezuela that are now looking at a very, very uncertain few months. The United States in the 80s gave a lot of money to the Mujahideen for so that the Soviets didn't capture Afghanistan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that turned into
it's actually really cringy. You look at like movies in the early 90s, Operation Desert Storm, I think it was Top Gun or one like there's some really, really popular movies in the early 90s, and they talk about, those brave freedom fighters, the Al-Qaeda. We're supporting those brave freedom fighters because they're in power. Because why? We gave them guns and we put them in power because we didn't It's crazy.
And it scares me that is one more of those, and being in one of the situations where now there is no head of the government, and so a sort of point of view that I've espoused for a very long time. When people clown the U.S. and being like, oh, the U.S. hasn't won a war since like World War II. I heavily disagree. The U.S. wins the war like immediately. They won the war in like 3 hours. They lose the occupation because that's very, very difficult to do. And in this case, I think it's again the exact same thing that happened with Iraq, the exact same thing that happened in Vietnam, same thing that has been happening for the last like 50 years, 60 years. The United States goes into a country, deposes the government, destroys the infrastructure, and then tries to take control of it, and it doesn't work. And in each situation, different people have grabbed that control, right? So in the Afghanistan situation, now it's the Taliban running the country, and my fear is that there is no like a fracture among like let's say religious or like societal lines in Venezuela to the level of Iraq or Afghanistan. There is no de-Baathification process, sort of like with Saddam Hussein, but they're like the cartels have a gigantic amount of power. What happens now that there is no like government power? Do the cartels take over? Does it get even worse? Like what's this destabilization process, it seems that it's only going to make things worse.
I
think that's the goal.
And I think that we need to recognize that, the best thing that we can do for them is pretend that no one's at the wheel. We can't say that there's no power at the top. There is. We just don't like it. We need to recognize that this is not an accident and they're not stupid. But they're really hoping we think they are, because then we'll probably not be very good at stopping it.
And just to leave you with this, what can we do now? Like again,
So
for the people in the U.S., obviously you have more control with voting, calling your representatives and stuff. For everyone else that's just sort of distributed around the world, aside from protesting where no one really cares, what do we do?
So a couple of things. First off, in other countries, there's a lot that you can do because this movie is coming to a theater near you. This is not just happening in the United States. There is a large push towards fascism everywhere. If you haven't seen the fascist rise in Japan, it's nuts. If you haven't seen the fascist rise in actually Germany, across East Germany, it's scary. If you haven't seen the fascist rise in the UK, it's insane. Fascism is coming back into style in a big way.
I moved to Greece. The fascism in Greece is terrifying.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of right wing there.
So you have a lot that you can do, and if you are framing it in terms of the United States, you're not doing it right. You have things that you should be doing, and it is right where you are. But you can see this as an object lesson, right? Part of what this episode is about is pointing out how we got here so that we don't get here again. We got in our own way. We became our own opposition. Right. One of the things that I forgot that you actually brought up very briefly was culture. So Hodai and Tori, when I went to visit family, I've said that they were all MAGA folks. They picked me and V up from the airport. We went into they parked the car in the garage, and as the garage door opened, there's a big poster. There's a big poster of Charlie Kirk. And do you know what it said over Charlie Kirk's face? Or no, just under Charlie Kirk? Never surrender. Not never forget.
Jesus
Not never
Christ.
forget. Never surrender. There is a culture war, and they are in it. And we all have done a really good job of rolling our eyes and going, oh, culture war, oh, war on Christmas, oh, it's so silly, they're so silly. Well, we're not actually stopping them when all we're doing is rolling our eyes at them. They've been very clear for many, 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 many years that they are viewing this as a war. When they create martyrs like Charlie Kirk, they're not saying never forget, because they're not creating a monument to be sad about. They're creating an icon to rally around and continue to be at war. And while we on the other side, what are we doing? We're all crying and masturbating to the idea that someday we're all going to get the chance, the opportunity to surrender. Right? All we're going to do is go, oh, and now that we have power, now we're going to turn everyone's swords to plowshares. Have you heard that term, swords to plowshares, Hodai?
No, I have not.
No? I believe it's biblical, isn't it, Tori?
Yeah, it's biblical, but it might have been translated differently.
Okay.
In outside of English, like American English Bibles.
Got it.
Yeah, the idea of like turning all of your weapons into implements for gardening and harvesting, like growing crops, is the sentiment there.
Yeah, and I think
because you don't need them anymore, ostensibly.
Exactly. And I think that a big bit of fear here is that the second that a not MAGA person gets elected into leadership, he's going to go, oh, immediately, swords to plowshares, because we don't need it anymore.
Is that not what Biden did?
That's exactly what Biden did.
And unfortunately, that means with the Overton window moved 6 paces to the right, you move it 2 paces to the left, and you're back at the beginning.
No, we're still 4 paces to the right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like back at the beginning, as in like now the right takes it again, moves it 6 paces again.
Yeah,
and
I think that if you were to ask someone over here in the United States, if you were to ask somebody on the right, hey, why do you own guns? They would say, oh, so that we can fight the government. And nowadays it's, oh yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. If you were to ask someone on the left, Why do you own guns? If they say fight the government, they're going to get disappeared tomorrow, right? They could have the same answer and still get dis-fucking-peered tomorrow. But the fact is they don't say that. You know why? Because we have all happily disarmed ourselves. So happy are we to be the front runners, to show just how brave and wise we are, that we have disarmed ourselves, hoping everybody was going to take just be so in awe of how smart and handsome we are, and they were going to disarm themselves too, because we're just such good examples.
Beacons of hope
of change, you know. And so like we fucked ourselves, and we've removed the tool that everybody has but us.
That is exactly the point that you brought of why would you give your power like willingly without a fight?
Yeah, and the thing is though, is now we are faced with this. Are we taking it back, or are we recognizing that we never lost it? We are just always continuing to give it over. We need to decide not to. You know, we need to act in solidarity with each other. We need to recognize, if you want to do something about the United States, then you should be talking about the exact same thing that happened to Rodrigo Duterte. You know, the Philippines already had its dance with fascism, and that guy is at The Hague. And that's where Trump needs to be. I have no confidence in the American judiciary to actually prosecute this. It needs to be tried in the international court.
I don't have any.
Tori, what are your thoughts?
Expectation.
I don't want to like. What do you think?
I mean, I think that you're right, historically speaking, that like the U.S. does not have the either internal fortitude or the mechanisms to prosecute this. I completely agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's the cheat code to the United States is our system is long. It takes a long time, and you can take advantage of that. And it has been taken advantage of.
There are very few mechanisms for actually enforcing consequences, which again goes back to the Reconstruction thing that I want to talk about.
Yes, so there
next
are
month,
absolutely mechanisms for enforcing consequences. There are not mechanisms for enforcing consequences on the people in charge. Right. So
if that wasn't clear, that is that's exactly what I meant. There's not mechanisms for enforcing consequences for people with government power in our country. You know, whereas like, I don't know, Brazil also, they're like, oh, we're going to prosecute this guy, Bolsonaro, right? They're like, nope, you did a bad thing. This is not how our government works. Fuck you. Go to jail. You know, we can't really do that because that's seen as political.
That fuck you go to jail took a long time.
It did, but it happened. Whereas here in the U.S., right, like Civil War, I think is a perfect example. Most of the leaders of the not most, but many of the leaders, a plurality of the leaders of the Confederate states that broke away, that did an actual like, we're traitors to the country now, just came back and got voted into, once the country was reunited, just got voted back into power and had federal offices in DC, right? So it's like, we have nothing to hold people in power accountable. We're like, we'll give you your power back if you are a traitor.
You don't even have to go as far as the American Civil War. Just think about the Spanish Civil War, like 1975. Our dear dictator Franco died, and like now, even to this day, you still have like the Generalissimo Franco Street present in some small towns, which is technically illegal and has been illegal for guess how long? The last like 10 years. It's insane. Wow. That. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have to go back to 1865. There are much more recent examples.
That is, it's just, you know, it's. I lied. It's the last 3 years. It's since 2022.
It's been illegal in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's been like a street being called like Generalissimo Franco Street has been only illegal for the last 3 years. So You know,
Classic. Yep.
the man
I,
that destroyed the country.
I think that I'm sorry, as you're talking, bringing up the Civil War, I really feel like the Civil War never ended. You know, we
Yeah.
never learned the lesson that we needed to,
Yeah.
and they just taught their children and grandchildren and great grandchildren how to keep the war going. You know, talking about Franco, like it wasn't until the early mid 1900s, right, that you started seeing Civil War monuments being built all throughout the American South,
Right.
monuments to generals who fought against the American the Union, you know, army.
Yeah.
These people were traitors to the United States,
Yep.
and they were being built war memorials. Like, of course, you're going to see that. You know, it's. I'm sorry, it's just incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
Hodai, I think we've only
Yeah.
got 30 minutes. We've got another caller, and we've got a few more topics we'll get to. So thank you for
Let's go.
calling,
Let's
though.
go.
And I said France, and I didn't say Spain. You should have bitten my head off for that. I apologize.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's easier to call me Basque. My last thing is, you know, like that. As crazy as the world is, everybody should take up a different creative outlet. I started making mead, for example.
Ooh.
It's a lovely process. And it's a very social process. I met all my friends. We had a big bucket here, and we made a big batch. I'd recommend, you know, like foster your community, get in touch with the people that you care about, and do social things together, because that's like we're gonna need a little bit more sanity for the next few years.
No,
So
I mean, not just that, but it's solidarity with the people around us that's going to get us through it. It really,
as well.
and not just
Yeah.
emotionally. Like, it's not just our emotional well-being. It's our actual ability to be effective is
Physical
because we are,
probably
yeah.
at this point.
But Hodai, take care of yourself, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
So we have a few other things. I know you wanted to bring up a topic too, and I want to make sure you get the chance to shift into it. So I'll say my last piece really quick. And people can call in next week if they want to argue with me about it. But there was a point that was brought up to me about progressivism versus conservatism. And historically, if you were to look at progressive versus conservative, a very good argument could be made that the most progressive party in the United States is MAGA. Because progressive does not mean liberal. It does not mean we like it. Progressive just means it's progressing towards a future that somebody else wants that has not happened before. Conservative, well, it seems like everybody's pining over getting back to 2015. So I'm pretty sure that that's a rather conservative viewpoint. And it was brought up to me, oh, Eric, that's not progressive, that's regressive. It is regressive what MAGA is doing. And I think that that is absolutely wrong. It's wrong because if you were to say MAGA is regressive, then you are granting them an alternate history that never happened. They're not getting back to this fictionalized history. So they're not regressing to it. They are progressing to a new future. And so again, moving into 2026, I do want us to start shifting our views here. We cannot use the same tools because they're not fucking working. So let's stop with the implicit shit that is causing us issues. Let's start seeing where we are effective, where there's value, and where we are getting in our own way. Even using words like progressive and conservative are possibly tools that we're robbing ourselves of. Right? It's not about progressive and conservative anymore. Right? We need to start seeing these boundaries as changed. It is different
Yes.
now. And I'm happy to be called out. I want people to yell at me. I want people to tell me I'm wrong. But the point of this is to help us move into 2026 with our power. We have it. We have the ability, and we continuously rob ourselves of it. If you want an exercise this week, by the way, homework for people, watch The West Wing. And while you're watching it, see how many times The West Wing is actually teaching people how to be managed opposition. The number of episodes that underscore and just make becoming managed opposition the best thing ever is crazy. Did we all forget that in The West Wing, the president looked at the person running against him, the person, and said, "Oh, I want you to be my vice president"? Like, did we all forget just
because he was the bigger person?
Because he was the yes, that's right. And being the bigger person is better and more important than protecting and taking care of the values and the people that you are supposed to be representing.
Yeah.
It is sheer masturbatory insanity. But Tori, I want you to get the chance to talk to us about what was been on your mind. I only took the first hour and 40 minutes of our 2-hour thing. I'm happy to go long if you want to go long. What's on your mind? How do you think we should be coming into 2026?
Well, first of all, I loved everything you said. I love having these conversations with you. So no harm, no foul, at least on my end. But I do, I have been having some thoughts about 2026. I don't know why, but I'm like feeling kind of excited, feeling like some good things could happen, which is not normal for me. Like I've fallen into some pessimism in the last decade, basically since, an orange man came down the golden escalator. I've fallen into some pessimism, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so I have been thinking about like what my goals are. I don't do New Year's resolutions, right? But sure. I take January to kind of come up with what I want to accomplish in the year. And then I take February to like sort of map it out, but I refuse to start any new goals before daylight saving time comes back on. And I don't feel like I'm dying in the dark slowly for 18 hours a day. All that said, this is what I'm doing. That's not prescriptive at all, but I thought I'd share because I'm like, how do I maintain momentum and really view this as a long game without like giving away my power. So I've decided that, I'm going to come up with a political activism goal. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but I'm going to have a political activism goal. I'm going to have a mutual aid goal of like, people start the year, they're like, oh, I'm going to save $5,000 this year or whatever the situation is. Or I'm going to pay off $10,000 in debt. I'm like, I'm going to give a certain amount to mutual aid. Nice. That's my math, banking, financial goal.
Nice.
I am going to commit regular time to being in community, which excitingly for me means spending more time with Eric and V.
Yay!
Don't be jealous, anyone. No, you should be very jealous. And something that I heard recently that I really appreciated was from Governor Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. And I've decided to call it the Harriet Tubman test. And it's the reflection that he does, I'm not sure how often, but, fairly regularly, where when he is feeling frustrated, stymied, angry, wanting to give up, etc., he does this thing where he imagines himself at the end of the day sitting down with Harriet Tubman and like just telling her about his day and like all of the frustrations and overwhelm and upset that he feels, and like sitting and explaining that to her. And then just with some like historical knowledge and reflection, kind of going, okay, if Harriet Tubman would listen to my complaints and say, in a much more polite way, go fuck yourself. These aren't real problems. Yeah. Then I can probably keep going. right? I probably actually have what it takes to continue down this path of doing the work of you know, I don't think he would say liberation, because that's not a thing you're allowed to say as the governor of any state, but you know what I mean. And so I'm going to start using this, right? Of like the Harriet Tubman test. So I don't get to despair and say we're cooked and throw up my hands, throw in the towel, give up, unless it passes the Harriet Tubman test. If she'd be like, you got a point. It's really hard for you, poor baby. I'm so sorry you're going through that. When obviously what she went through was horrific. Yeah. This is not to say that like you need to go through horrific things, but for me, as someone who reflects frequently on my ancestors and like everything that they had to overcome so that I could be sitting in this room having this conversation with Eric and Hodai and other folks, putting its perspective taking for me, right? So that's something that I'm committing to, is using this Harriet Tubman test and going, oh, I actually am I'm doing fine. I'm doing well. We can keep going. We can keep fighting another day. We can keep showing up and taking our power back by force. Taking our power by force. I want to make sure I get my language right.
hey, so sometimes it's much more empowering, but yeah.
Good. So those are the things that I'm thinking about, reflecting on as I come into 2026.
I love it. I do. I think your goals are ones that if we were to extrapolate everyone to getting there, I think we would wind up ending 2026 a lot better than we ended 2025. I love that you're wanting to do the change that you want to see everyone doing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I definitely want to take you up on the hanging out more. I missed you guys. This holiday season, I missed you.
We need to do it. We gotta.
Yeah. I did see in the chat somebody was saying that what I said about progressivism, people are arguing about that right now. Of course they are. If you have a problem, call in. And if you think that I'm just giving you rage bait, I don't think so. All right, let's talk to our last caller, and then we'll wrap things up. Ben in Alabama has been waiting for about 40 minutes now. Let's talk to him.
Hey.
Ben, hello, you're live on the show.
Hi, Ben.
Hey. Yeah, it's funny because, I was digging what you were talking about at the beginning, so I actually didn't call in till an hour into the show.
It's all good. It says you are talking about, you want to talk about obsessing over hypocrisy among our opponents may be a form of managed opposition in that it easily distracts us from actually getting things done. Hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know you've probably encountered, there are some people who I usually agree with on stuff who really get fixated on the hypocrisy of the opposition.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course they're hypocrites. They have no principles except maybe selfishness.
The thing is I don't want to reduce them that way. We just need to recognize that they exist in a different framework. And
Could I float a potential framework? Because I challenged my parents with this growing up. My parents are like Reagan conservatives. They're like MAGA now, but growing up, my parents were Reagan conservatives, and I would be like, the Desert Storm. It was like, isn't this kind of hypocritical? Like either to your faith or to your small government conservatism, right? Isn't it kind of hypocritical to like have these stances where you're taking rights away from other people and giving yourself privileges, or like just full-blown Christian supremacy? Didn't use those words, obviously, because I was like 9. And the response that I got from them was, well, everyone's a hypocrite. Sort of like everyone's doing it. So like, why do we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard? So just if you want like a little window into the hypocritical thing on the right. Like they're just like, well, everybody's a hypocrite, so who cares if I have a higher moral standard or not, right? It's kind of like, I'm
Yeah.
going to play the game as it exists and not be the better person and back out entirely, which is interesting. Anyway, I'm sorry, Ben. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think it's perfectly valid to bring up when when somebody's putting on airs about being morally superior and having principles. You can say, "Nah, dog, you have none."
Mm-hmm.
It's just there is that fallacy about the where if somebody's being a hypocrite, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they're inconsistent.
So I think that honestly gets us to like that again, like in my framework, I personally really want to be rational. I love being rational.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get me to stop in my tracks, point out that I'm being irrational. Rationality, like by definition, is when you believe a thing and it is, how do I you know what? When I talked about these concepts a lot more often, I was able to pull these things right off the top of my head. So let me try here. It's maintaining consistency in your understanding of things, right? You can rationally believe in ghosts if your worldview is that ghosts exist. Because then when you talk about ghosts, you shaped your world to include them. And so you can use those in your understanding of the world. When you're being irrational, it's when you hold these beliefs that don't actually work together, right? When you have worldviews that clash like that, you cannot rationally hold them at the same time. You need a cohesive worldview that accounts for all the things that you believe. So I think that when we talk about pointing out hypocrisy, it's because we think they have the same values that we do. We think that pointing out their irrationality does to them what it does to me. It drives me up the fucking wall. It doesn't drive Tori's parents up the fucking wall.
No, and actually, if you look at the data, it makes them more committed to their cognitive dissonance when you confront them on it.
Well, even more than that. Like we can get back. Like we can go all the way to Kierkegaard on this. Right? Because what did Kierkegaard say? Kierkegaard said, believing this thing when all evidence is to the contrary makes you the best Christian. You become a warrior of faith. It's totally different. So Ben, do you ever play Dungeons and Dragons? Do you ever play D&D?
Oh yeah, I think I learned to read about the same time as my brothers taught me to play.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I love that.
So have you ever actually played like a true neutral character?
I don't like to. I always lean good somehow.
Why?
Neutral or chaotic.
What is it about it what is it about true neutral that bothers you? And for everybody else who doesn't play D&D, it's relevant. I promise. We'll get there soon.
As a true neutral character feels like, a political moderate.
So I honestly think that that's not true neutral. I think that's a poor definition of true neutral. I think because that whole fence sitting, bit, I don't think is true neutral. I think true neutral is like
their apathy?
No. It's like if you're looking at everything on a grid, X and Y, right? Morality, you're looking at good and bad, chaotic, versus ordered and lawful. Neutral is where you get the Z-axis. It's a totally different plane of being.
Oh.
Right? It is when you play like a true neutral character, you see a true neutral character in D&D, it is someone whose values are so fucking different that them adhering to their values has nothing to do with your values and your understanding of the world, right? So,
interesting.
In the Star Wars universe, there are a group of kind of Force users called the Grey Wardens, and the Grey Wardens firmly believe that there must be order in the Force, and so they seek to bring order to the Force, and that does not mean good. That means if there's too much good, they will ally with chaos. And when chaos reigns, then they will ally with the Jedi. They're not about, making good win or evil win. It's about keeping them balanced. And so to them, joining forces with the Sith can be the correct choice. And then the next day, joining forces with the Jedi can be the correct choice. And to them, they're being perfectly rational. They're following their moral code. It's just on a different axis of existence. Their understanding, right, is so different. If your values are so different that, we're not able to see it through our own framework. We're seeing X and Y, but they're on a three-dimensional plane. They're just not there. It seems like it doesn't make sense. Why are you joining with opposite ends? Aren't you, working against your own? No, not if the goal is to keep order in the Force, right? And in D&D, what I love is that there are so many wild races, all these different, monsters and creatures that they can have entirely different goals, values, gods that they worship. And because of that, maybe your god is an evil god who absolutely loves doing something awful. And so just doing something awful is the best thing for you. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I think true neutral is. It gives you a way to escape good and evil, lawful and chaotic. Do you see what I mean by that being different than just moderate?
Yeah. Like I was thinking it, like if you're constraining all your thoughts to being on that two-dimensional grid, then I think that would be a moderate. But you're saying it frees you to move in an orthogonal direction.
Yeah. You're on the Z-axis now, baby. And I think that we're looking at these conservative viewpoints from this 2D view, X and Y, and expecting them to plot out the same way that we do. They have a different value set. They're...
Yeah, so I...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking like hypocrisy, I think, can be useful when somebody is fixated on claiming they have a principle, and you can show them, no, you don't, or you certainly don't follow it. But then you can move on to, so why? What's the point?
And do you?
But value it?
And do you value it? Some people don't care that they're being irrational or that they're not being consistent.
Yeah. No, that's the other thing. It's like, so many people, like most people I know, I've always had a big picture view of stuff, but most people don't. And they just think about, what's happening to them and their friends and their family, maybe. If they're somebody like Trump, they're only thinking about them.
I think that honestly, this is a good way to get to the final point of today. And I think with that, I'm probably going to wrap into it and close things up. Unless, Tori, there's anything else you want to say to Ben?
No, this is awesome. I'm really appreciating thinking about Z-axes. So thank you both.
Yeah, and when I do play D&D, I actually try to throw the alignment axis in the bin and just make a character with a personality who has certain values. And it's just they usually appear to map into the subspace that is called good in some degree.
That's just
anyway.
That's because you're a good person. That's all. It shines through. It shines through.
Yeah, the 2D projection from 3D space
That's
usually falls on the good side.
All right, Ben. I think I'm actually going to take that question off of the call and start wrapping things up.
Right.
So thank you. And
thanks.
Call in next time.
Thanks,
Okay.
Ben.
All right. So Ben brought up kind of moving into this space of dealing with people on their terms and understanding the way that other people view themselves, especially people that we don't agree with. history has told us what happens during times like this and after times like this. And I think that we need to be aware of and ready for this in 2026 and moving forward. You know that the Salem witch trials, Tori, only lasted like a year, if that. And people interviewed like the people involved later on. Hey, during this time, there was this mania. You were just killing people. You were burning people. Like, you were torturing people. What happened, right? After World War II, you know, they interviewed people who had voted for, you know, and supported Nazi policies. What happened? Pretty consistently, they forget. They say, oh, I never supported that, when they did. They say, oh, I didn't believe all of that, when they did. Or they say, I don't remember that. And so they act as if they don't need to be responsible for it because they don't remember it.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the fragility of the human mind, because we all want to be the good guys. And when you find out that you've lost, or you find out that you're not the good guy, it is easier to forget than to be responsible.
Yeah.
What's going to happen, right? Trump is getting old. He's not going to be supreme leader forever. You know, and that might be might be a thing that we deal with in 2026, and it might not be. So let's just have a second to think about it. If MAGA ended tomorrow, if Trump, you know, fucking joined the mothership and flew off into wherever he came from, it wouldn't be over. Trump didn't write Project 2025. In fact, the people who did got Pence in office, or not, Vance, sorry. They got JD Vance in office. We cannot just be pinning this on Trump. We have to understand that there is a structure in place that is going to continue. We also need to recognize that even if they are no longer in charge, even if everything we want happens, I'm not going to be able to see family who supported it and go, hey, so now do you know you were wrong? They're going to say, no, I forget. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The gaslighting has not started yet. So start preparing, because I guarantee you that the GOP, after MAGA is gone, is going to act as though that never happened.
Yep.
And they are going to maintain this view of moral superiority without ever admitting to MAGA ever existing.
Correct.
You know how I think we can fix that? We need to quit calling them Nazis.
Okay.
I think we need to call them MAGA. I think we need to call them Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I think that term needs to be tainted with their behavior. I think that we are borrowing the taint from a history, and we don't need to. They've got enough badness that they can live with their own shit. I think that if we call them by what they are, then they're going to have to give themselves a new name. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're Nazis. I don't think they're the SS. I think they're ICE.
Yep.
I think we can call them ICE. We don't need to call them stormtroopers. ICE is enough. But we need to truly, truly hammer home that if you think there's a future where everyone's going to, oh, I was wrong, oh, you know, whatever, like, even if you get everything you want, you're never going to get an apology. You're never going to get an admission that they were wrong. It's never going to happen. So let's not hope that we're going to like build this future and, oh yes, you know, again, swords to plowshares, again, spirit of collaboration. We're just going to all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, because they're not ever going to admit they were wrong. Ever. It didn't say don't forget. It didn't say never forget under Charlie Kirk's face, right? In on that poster. It said never surrender. And I feel like we're already queuing up to try to surrender, to be good examples. Don't. Step into your power. Recognize it. Find solidarity. Find those communities that you can be involved in. Get involved. If your answer to it is vote, get fucked. Your ops. Yes, vote, sure. But also put the fire out. Reach out to your community, because a lot of people are losing their health care. A lot of people are going to be losing their support and their ability to take care of themselves and their family this year. So if you can be there for your neighbors, you can actually help mitigate the impact of the damage that's going to happen. That is going to enable them to do things like be in solidarity with their fellow worker. It's going to empower them to be able to speak out because they're not afraid, right? They're afraid because their security is in jeopardy. So when you help secure the people around you, they can stand up and lend their voices. That is how we do it. It's not just about making us feel good about ourselves. It's about actually getting through it, because we get through it together. And we don't do it because we asked please, And we didn't do it because we got authorization, which we're going to be talking about next month. Tori, by the way, on this vein, do you know what I'm going to be talking about when Atticus comes on?
What's that?
Performative allyship. If you want to be
on a really important one.
That I feels like an important minefield as well. If you want to find another time to come on, around that, I'd be happy to schedule you. But performative allyship, I think, is going to be a hot button issue. I'm excited about it, but we went over a lot. It's been over 2 hours. Tori, how are you feeling?
Feeling great.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an awesome conversation, and I'm excited to continue it, because I think that these are things that we need to be challenging ourselves with, and thinking back on, it's very, very weird thinking back on like the parallels of Reconstruction, and like I don't, not to be a dick, but Joe Biden, and how it's like, we're going to compromise together to get back to the spot that we were on January 6th. We're going to compromise together to get back to the spot we were at in like 1861. Everybody's trying to get back to, like, use compromise to get back to like the prior time when things were actually not great, right?
Yeah.
Of like,
it's almost
where the conflict started, and it's like, no, we've got it. Like, again, like, accountability is very important.
It's almost like when you do that, you're taking a conservative viewpoint. You're wanting to get back to a thing. If we want to be progressive, we need to plot a course and build that future. Almost, kind of, maybe. All right, I want to read some super chats. We got 2 this week. We got A Wright sent $5. Thank you. Says, happy 2026 to you all. Glad Eric and Tori are back. You both look nicer than David's Tesla. I have no idea. Seriously though, happy New Year, everyone. Thank you. And Melody Kate says, MAGA is evil and they revel in their hatred. They intentionally feed hate and rage to their followers. Their value set is evil, and their hypocrites' rules do not apply to them. I mean, I think that they're on just a different axis. I think that it makes sense to them. And if we're going to understand them, we need to get that we can't judge them necessarily by what's going to work for us, because it's obviously not working on them. And also, fuck them. Let's build the world that we want and not have to drag them in. That's a conversation I want to have this year as well, is how much energy we're spending on fence sitting versus the people who we're building community for.
Yeah.
I think it's an important one. But in the meantime, Tori, I know that once a month is just not enough. How can people find you until next time?
You can check out my podcasts, Go Home Bible, You're Drunk, with Justin Gentry, where we deconstruct the Bible after having lived it for 30 plus years, and White Homework, where we talk about anti-racism collective liberation, and yeah, being accountable for our actions, showing up in more meaningful ways than like I voted. So those are the places that you can find me until I'm back on.
Damn straight. I'd love to have you on again sooner. I so enjoyed these conversations. Tori, thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up. We're going to send it to our updated outro. We made sure that we have included our mods who have joined since we've last updated the outro, as well as making sure that our patrons are updated. We're super grateful. If you guys like the show, you want to see these conversations had, we need to have these conversations. It's important. Everything goes right back into the show. Consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. Every little bit helps. It goes to maintaining the lines, keeping the software going, and that's enough. The conversations are enough. They're worth having, and we're glad you're here to have them with us. Until next time, I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Tori Williams Douglas.
This is Skeptic Generation.
I'm glad we had this talk.
Whoa. That was not the outro. We're fixing this. I swear, every season. Let's try it again. No? This one.